Hello, my name is Guto Bugbo, and I'm here to show the factors contributing to the US dollar's worth, whether it's increasing or decreasing. This is a very important piece of information to know when it comes to global commerce and foreign exchange. So as you can see in this first trend line graph, it's comparing the US dollar to the euro from 2010 to 2024. When you see in 2010, the US dollar is worth about 75% of what the euro is. And then it slowly goes down and up and peaks in 2015 at about 90% of what the euro is. And then it slowly slips downward and overall reaches 88.94% by 2022. And this trend shows that the US dollar will continue to decrease in worth. And I personally believe this forecast due to these next graphs I'm about to show you. So in this next graph, the US is compared to the top 10 European countries' GDP from 2010 to 2024. The US has an overall higher GDP than all these other countries combined, but the GDP itself isn't what's important at 26.9 trillion going into 24 compared to 19 trillion going into 2024 for Europe. In page 3, the United States debt also continues to increase while Europe's debt remains stagnant at no more than 14 trillion compared to the US's 33 trillion. And as you can see, there is a vast increase in the slope between 2019 and 2022, while Europe continues to remain stagnant. But from 2019 to 2022, there's this slight decrease in slope for the United States, while for Europe's GDP, there's a very slight decrease and then an increase as well. But as you can see in this next trend graph, there is a that shows the United States government outlays versus its receipts from 2010 to 2024, which an outlay is the government's actual spending, while receipts are the budget allowed for the government. The receipt shown by the orange line shows a deficit compared to the outlays shown by the blue bars. And it's at its highest from 2020 to 2022, which corresponds well to this dip in GDP from 2020 to 2022, right before its slight increase. And this slight decrease, very slight decrease in the country's GDP around 2019, 2020. While when you pay attention, the country's GDP is substantially lower than its debt at 26 trillion versus 33 trillion. And Europe's GDP is substantially higher than its debt at close to 20 trillion versus close to 14 trillion. And finally, when you look at the ratio of Europe's GDP to its debt versus the United States GDP to its debt, the United States GDP continues to decrease, reaching an all-time low of 78.16% in 2020 compared to its GDP, and Europe's generally being 1.3 to 1.5 times what its debt is when you compare its GDP. And as you can see by these trends, the US's GDP continues to decrease compared to its debt, and Europe's GDP remains well above its debt. So overall, that's why I believe the United States GDP will be low. lower, or its worth will be lower than the European dollar, than the euro. Thank you for watching my video. These are the sources I used in order to compile all of this data.